Welcome to the podcast, Brandon. I'm excited because we're talking about one of, I think, the real missing ingredients in the cure for pod fade today, SEO. So, welcome.
Thank you for having me on.
So, why I say it's one of the missing ingredients is that I see so many podcasters trying to grow their show through like social media, and they never think about this like really powerful tool of SEO. So, I want to know, how did you get into SEO?
I just fell into it after I graduated from college, got my degree in business marketing, and the first job I got out of school was helping a company out with their digital marketing, and I don't really know much about it. They said, don't worry, we don't know much either. We're going to learn with you. We're going to take you to classes and workshops and seminars, and this is back in 2007. And after doing that for a few months, just kind of realized that everyone's probably going to have a website in the future, and there's lots of different ways to get traffic, but SEO, search engine optimization, is just a way to get free traffic. And that really piqued my interest. So over the years, I just stuck it out and kept doing with this SEO thing, working at different advertising agencies as a director of SEO, and also realized that I could pick up freelance clients here or there. So I could go to a local dentist or a doctor, a lawyer, or whoever that is in a conflict of interest at my company that I was working for, and see if I could pick up some freelance clients here or there. And after doing that for a while, working before work or after work and on my lunch breaks on my own company, I built it up to where I was able to eventually quit my job and focus solely on this, and been doing that ever since.
That's awesome. And I'm sure that things have changed over the years, just like most technology.
Yeah, Google pretty much changes their algorithm daily. So what works in the past doesn't necessarily work in the future. For the most part, it does, but Google's constantly changing. So you just got to be on top of it and see what they're looking for nowadays versus 2007 or whatever year you're in.
So, question for you, because I know a little bit about SEO. I'm no expert by any means, but I know that I know more than a lot of my listeners. Can you explain kind of like, I don't want to call it the dummies version because we don't have any dummies here on this podcast, but that version for those of us that aren't super familiar with SEO? Like, why do we want it for our shows?
So SEO is search engine optimization, which means ranking websites on Google. So when people search on Google, there's ads at the top. Those are all paid ads, but right below the ads are the organic, the free listings. And SEO is just trying to get you in those free listings so you get that free traffic. So if someone's searching for your keywords, you pop up and you're able to capture that on Google. And that's where it's just trying to figure out, all right, what are people searching for? How do I figure out, or how do I incorporate keywords that are relevant and targeted into my website? That way, when people search, I show up for those targeted keywords and bring in traffic that's actually interested in my podcast or whatever that you're promoting.
So, do you think that a podcaster needs a website also to help rank?
A website is yours, whereas if you're just a podcast episode on Spotify, that's not yours, or YouTube, that's you're just giving those platforms free content. And really, you want everything to lead back to your website because that's where you get full control. And you don't own any of these. They could take you down. They could take you off YouTube or Spotify or iTunes or any of these platforms. So if you just focus all your eggs in one basket and that happens, then you're just going to be starting from scratch. Whereas if you have a website, that's yours. You get full control. There's no noise. There's no distractions. There's not other ads for other people's podcasts or whatever promotions that they're putting out there. So you got to have a website because that's where you always get full control.
Yeah. And I always take it one step farther. I'm like, if you're using a link tree, that's not your website. Like, let's just stop using those already. Because that's one of the things I share with my audience. I'm like, we want people driving, like you said, to your own website. So I want to know, for that podcaster that's like, okay, I'm ready to up my game and start being found without having to search for all my people. Like, where do we even start with SEO?
Well, there's SEO is like a puzzle. There's a lot of pieces to it, and some pieces are bigger than others. And one really big piece is content, meaning text. Google can't really read images or videos or audio yet. They're getting much better at it, but they still rely heavily on text. So the more text you have on your website, the easier it is for search engines to read, understand, and really know what keywords you're targeting. So if you're just throwing up a podcast episode on your website, that's good, but it's going to be tough for the search engines to really know what that episode's about without you kind of spoon feeding them and giving them that text. So if you could summarize it maybe timestamp it. That's going to really help out. And then you could use that on all these platforms too. You could share those timestamps on YouTube, on any platform, because it's just going to help those platforms rank you higher, because just like a website and Google struggles to really understand what you're doing. Same with like Spotify and other platforms. I mean, they're a little bit better, but they still struggle at really understanding what this episode is about without you giving them that text. So if you can transcribe that episode, that'd be great. But if it's a really long episode, maybe it might be too much to transcribe. So summarizing it, time stamping it, that's going to really help out a lot.
Yeah. So when we're looking for these keywords, we're not, I've heard the phrase in the past, keyword stuffing. We're trying to make it a fluid, something that a person would read, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, keyword stuffing is where you just repeat the same word over and over and over again. So you can put the same word 30 times in your description. That would be like word stuffing, where you're just like, oh, I want to rank for the word tennis shoes. I'm going to put that in 100 times. And in the past, that would work, but Google changed a long time ago. And now it's not just throwing keywords in over and over again. It's making sure that's readable, it makes sense for people, and trying to hit synonyms and variations like tennis shoes, shoes for athletes, or shoes for tennis, or tennis shoe, or tennis footwear. So just mixing it up and not repeating the same keywords over and over again. So you could just tap into all those variations.
Ooh, I love that. So more variations. We're not going to stuff anymore. And what do you like? Because you're into SEO and there's so much chat right now about things like ChatGPT and other AI, do you think that eventually, like Google is going to start picking up like this is AI versus human written, and that'll like change our rankings with SEO? Because these places are all claiming that like if you write with this, it will give you this SEO beautiful, optimized blog, and I'm like, yeah, but somebody's got to know out there that it wasn't written by a human.
Yeah, I mean, 2 years ago, Google would have been mad, but like earlier in 2023, they said that we don't care who writes it, if it's human or AI, as long as it offers value. It doesn't matter to Google. So don't copy verbatim from tools like AI, ChatGPT, Bard, and all that stuff, because it's not accurate. But if you use it like as an outline and then build on it, that's perfectly fine. I mean, you could copy it if it's accurate, but it's not 100% accurate. So I would still just take everything with a grain of salt. But Google said they don't care who writes the content, because there's no real way to differentiate, which is the scary part. It just blends in. I mean, you can kind of look at patterns, but the more that people use it, the more that's going to be tougher to differentiate what's real and what's not real.
Wow, that is crazy to me. And I'm like, okay, but I still like writing my content. So that's not going to be a problem for me. And like you said, make it your own. Don't just copy and paste. Make sure it's fact checked, all of the things. So with SEO and specifically with podcasts, because again, I think this is one of the missing factors. Like, where do we, where on our podcast do we put this so that we start ranking? Is it somewhere that we're just like in our descriptions? You said we have a blog page because we all know now we need a website. But what is that next? Like, what's that next step for podcasters to maybe, move their shows up the rankings through using SEO?
Then you just got to make sure that you have a unique page for each episode on your website. So each podcast should be its own page or its own blog post on your website, because the more pages you have, the more keywords you can target, and the more opportunities you have to rank. Each page can only really target about like 3 to 5 keywords. After that, it kind of loses relevancy. So that makes it where the more pages you have, the more opportunities you have to rank for different keywords. And if you have a bunch of episodes, don't just throw them all on one page. That's not going to help out much with SEO. Break them up into individual pages, transcribe them, or timestamp them, and that's going to really help out. And then you got to start getting Google to trust you. And the way to get Google to trust you is by getting what are called backlinks, getting other websites to talk about you. The more websites that talk about you, the more trust Google's going to give to you. And then they look at those keywords on your website. But it doesn't work the other way around. Without building backlinks, Google's not going to rank a website. And what is a backlink? Backlink is a clickable link from another website that points to yours. So let's say you're reading an article on entrepreneur.com, and in there it says Brandon Leibowitz, and you click on it and it goes to my website. I'd be getting a backlink from entrepreneur.com. So the more websites that talk about you, the more trust Google is going to give to you and the higher they're going to rank you in the search engines.
Oh, this is new territory for Jen. I love it. So, how are you getting these backlinks? Is this like we're reaching out to places and saying, can you backlink this? This also just comes to mind. I'm like, this is gold for when you guest on someone else's show and they put your link in their show notes, which is on their blogs. Is that, would even the small guys count as a backlink?
Yeah, any website that links out to you, doesn't matter if you're small or big, the bigger, the more trustworthy it's going to seem. So like getting a backlink from my website is good, but it's not the same as like a Forbes or Huffington Post or New York Times. So the bigger the website, the more SEO value, but really what matters is relevancy. You want sites that are related to what you're doing. So if you're doing podcasts, you want podcast websites that are linking out to you. If you're doing like whatever it is, if you're like a dentist, you want health related websites. It doesn't have to be exactly what you're doing, just somewhat related. So relevancy is really the most important thing. And there's lots of different ways to build backlinks. The safest way is just look at your competitors. There's tools, you have to pay for them, but they'll show you any website's backlinks. The more popular ones would be like Ahrefs or Moz or SEMrush, but these tools will let you see any website's backlinks. And then one by one, you can start reaching out to these sites and figure out what is your competition doing. If you see that they're joined like the Chamber of Commerce, maybe join the Chamber of Commerce. If you see that they're on the BBB or if they're on Yelp or they're on some other obscure podcast platform that you've never heard of, maybe you join that platform, because the more backlinks you get that are related to what you're doing, the more trust Google's going to give to you.
Ooh. And this is something you help people with, correct, in your business?
Yep. Help them out with pretty much everything that we talked about, doing the keyword research, figuring out where to put those keywords on their website, and then more importantly, building that trust up, because without that trust, Google's not going to rank a website. You could put your keywords everywhere. You can make your website load quickly. You could do all the things that Google wants, but if you don't have any backlinks, they're not going to trust you.
So, how long does it take for Google to build trust with you? Is this something that's a couple we think about it and we're building for like down the road? Is it a 3 month thing? Like, is there a time frame? I have all the questions about backlinks now and this building trust.
Yeah, that one, it's really not a one size fits all. It really depends on how many backlinks your competitors have versus you. If you're a brand new website and you don't have any backlinks, it's going to take 6 months or longer to get Google to trust you. But if you've been around for years, you've had some trust built up, then it's going to be a little bit quicker to get those rankings. But what really matters is how many backlinks do you have versus your competitors. So let's say your competitor has 100 backlinks and you only have like 20 backlinks. It's probably going to take a while, 6 months, maybe a little bit longer. But if you have like 80 backlinks and your competitors have 100, then you should be able to get up there within a few months. So it really just comes down to those backlinks. Backlinks are how Google's algorithm first started. That's how Google became popular. It's because it ranked websites based off backlinks, and still heavily based off backlinks to this day. It's changed a lot how they look at them, but still really heavily based off backlinks. That's what ranks websites.
Wow. I'm going to have to work on those and definitely go and hang out in SEO Optimizer space, because if you need help with this, like me, I'm just like, okay, I need the backlinks. I want to start ranking. I'd like to start moving up, like at least a little bit closer to my competitors. So I think that this is really interesting. So for someone, is this backlinking based on a domain? So like, why I ask is some people have multiple podcasts or multiple things and they have all the domains going to different pages on their website. Does it base it on the website that's being hosted, or is it based off the domain?
Well, so you want to have backlinks being built to your website. And it doesn't matter what page, homepage, product pages, podcast, blogs, whatever content's on there. You don't want to just have all the backlinks going to your homepage. That looks a little weird. So you have to mix it up and have the backlinks go into multiple pages on your website. But every website is different. So if you have, let's say you have your podcast website.com and then you have another one, my podcast website2.com, then each one of those is different websites and they need backlinks built to each website. You can't just share backlinks from one website to another. They all need their own unique ones.
Okay. So for my podcasters out there that have a podcast URL that or domain that's going to their main, like, I don't know, like myname.com, and then they have podcastname.com that's going to their blog page, that's not getting them actual traffic if somebody is directing them to their podcast page. I'm just wondering if we should start our own websites for our podcast to build that way again, because we're all podcasters here trying to figure out how to grow. Do we need two separate websites to build that trust with Google?
No, you should just have one website. Yeah, unless you want to double your work, because if you have two websites, then you have to have twice as many Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn pages. You have to do everything double, which makes it
Okay, so now I'm getting it. So the domain itself doesn't matter. It's just the actual hosted content that matters.
that's your URL. So my website is
Okay.
SEOoptimizers.com. And then on there, I have SEOoptimizers.com/podcast. That's where my podcast will be. I have SEOoptimizers.com/blog. That's where my blog will be. I have SEOoptimizers.com/SEO classes, where all my SEO classes are. Because if I have a website about each one, then I'm going to have hundreds of websites, and that's not manageable versus just lumping it all together. But if I was selling tennis shoes, I wouldn't mix it up with my SEO because that would not make sense. So as long as it's related, then it should all be under one website. If it's not related, then it should be different websites, because you don't want to be mixing up tennis shoes with SEO or selling healthcare with SEO. It's going to be really strange, and it's not going to really align and make sense.
So we want to be crystal clear about who we're serving, what our keywords are, and how we're looking at how we want to rank in comparison to other people in our niche.
Yeah, basically, we want to look at our competition, see what they've done, see what type of backlinks they built, what keywords they're using on their website, and incorporate them into our own website. Because if they're on that first page of Google, Google's rewarding them. And if we go look at their backlinks, look at their keywords, and incorporate what's working into our own website, that's going to get Google to trust you in a similar way.
Oh, okay. I'm like, there's so many things that I need to do to my website, because I am also one of those people that's like, oh, well, maybe I should start another website, because I don't know. I like to collect websites because I like the extra work. But with backlinking and starting to grow your show, because again, we're podcasters here, and is this something that we would start thinking about as I'm trying to think of like what's the right question for it? Like, we're starting to want to grow. We're starting to want to put all of our eggs into like this basket. Is it best to come to somebody that knows how to do this, or is SEO something that the normal everyday person can figure out?
It just depends how much time you have. If you have time to learn it, then you could definitely do it, but it does become like a full-time job building these backlinks. So it just depends how much time you have to dedicate to SEO. If you have time in your day, then you could definitely learn a decent amount of it. But there's the backlinks that never end. That's where it's like a full-time job where you're constantly building backlinks, finding keywords, putting them into the coding, transcribing, stuff like that is relatively easy. Like you don't have to have much knowledge to transcribe a podcast. It's just writing it down, transcribing it, but then incorporating the keywords in the right places, making sure all your images, your videos, your audio files have the right keywords in it before you upload them to these platforms, making sure that you interlink the pages together, make sure the titles have good keyword rich titles that have high search volume intent behind them. All these little things will help out. But for the most part, if you go to, you just search my name, Brandon Leibowitz, on YouTube, and I've thrown up a lot of classes over the years that show step by step how to do this. So if they want to learn how to do it, they can see step by step exactly how to do all this stuff.
That's awesome. So you also mentioned YouTube. When we're talking SEO, is it the same across every platform? So you're on YouTube, we can search for your name, we can do those kind of things. Are we optimizing our content in the same way as we would for a website? Or is it SEO like based per platform?
Yeah, every platform is different because they don't know what they're doing. They keep everything top secret. Like Google's not telling Bing what they're doing. They're not telling Amazon what they're doing. They're not going to tell Yelp how they're searching. So anywhere where there's a search feature, there's a way to optimize for it. But every platform is going to be different because Amazon is not looking at backlinks. They're looking at reviews. They're looking at the bullet points and the and the title and the reviews having keywords in it versus like Yelp. They're going to be looking at like the images, and you're going to look at how you describe your business, because each one's going to be different. They're not going to really be looking at backlinks or all these other signals, or like Facebook. They're going to look at more social signals, like how many people watch your content, or how many people like, engage it, retweet or share it, comment on it, DM you. That stuff helps out. Like with YouTube, they're gonna look at like how long people watch your video. So if you got 1,000 people that watch your video, but they only watch it for 5 seconds, that's not good. Versus if you have 10 people that watch your video and they watch the whole thing, that's gonna be much, much better. So everyone's gonna be having different things that they're looking at. It's just trying to figure out what platform you're on and what signals are gonna send them that'll tell you that you're a trustworthy, legitimate, credible website or platform to be ranking higher on.
Ooh, that's just made it extra complicated because now we've got to figure out. Probably, I would say the best thing for podcasters is start with their own website before they start optimizing everywhere else, because that seems like what the core of, like, if we want to be found when people are searching, that's our best option, is for our own websites. And you mentioned backlinks and how much time it takes. Is this something that we can hire out for just like a backlinking service, or is this something that is like a bigger picture that we would have to like learn and or hire for?
No, you could definitely hire. I do that for my clients and help myself out by building these backlinks. So if you need help, there's definitely services that will provide backlinks for you. You just gotta make sure that they're from websites that are related to what you're doing. That's number one, is relevancy. The more related, the better. If it's just a random website, it's probably gonna do more harm than good. But if it's related to what you're doing, then that's gonna move you up. So you gotta be careful when you build backlinks or you hire someone to do it, that they're building you quality backlinks. And was a quality backlink? A quality backlink is just one that's from a site that's related to what you're doing and authoritative. So making sure they're relevant and authoritative are the two kinds of things that Google's really looking at when it comes to these backlinks.
So with a backlink, are you, like, as a service provider that's helping people, are you creating content to put on that website, or is it literally somebody's like backlinking you as a reference?
It doesn't matter as long as they just link out to you one way or another. That's all that matters, is just having that clickable link on a third party website. Doesn't matter if it's an image, a video, podcast, or a blog, an interview, whatever needs to be done, a trade show that you sponsored, a social media page, but whatever it is, it has to be a clickable link that points to your website.
Wow. That my mind was like, okay, this could be a little easier, because I'm thinking, like, to get on another person's website, you're writing a whole nother piece of content or creating a whole nother piece of content that you're trying to pitch to them to get on, where you can just be referenced. that's
Sometimes,
that's awesome.
usually you want to give them something, but maybe you're an e-commerce website and you're selling products and you have coupon codes. There's a lot of websites that just list out coupon codes for other websites. So like if you're Nordstrom's, you have codes. There might be this couponcode.com and they list you on there saying, here's a coupon code to Nordstrom. So if you just create a coupon code, you're going to get a backlink from these coupon websites, but are they related to what you're doing? Probably not. So it's all about relevancy.
Oh, relevancy, backlinks, having your own website, and having everything based off of one domain on one website. Okay, we're learning. We're learning here. We're baby steps as we go. So, for someone that is in the podcast world, and let's say they're not quite ready for a website, what can we look for on podcast players via, like, optimizing for SEO?
Pretty much same thing that we talked about earlier for your website, is transcribing the podcast episode, time stamping it, summarizing it, but adding text. That's the most important thing, is adding text to the description that describes what that episode's about, the title, also one of the most important places to put keywords, but transcribing it's going to really, really help out, because they struggle to listen or understand audio. They're getting better, but it's not perfect. So the more you help them out, the more you spoon feed them, the more they're going to reward you with higher rankings on those platforms.
And on those platforms, you're talking about like the distributor. So like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, things like that.
Yeah, but pretty much anywhere. So you transcribe your website or transcribe the episode, put it on your website, share it on Spotify the same way, share it on YouTube the same way, share it on Stitcher, iTunes, all those platforms the same way that you did it on your website, because you already did the work, did the research, throw it up on your website. First, throw it up on your website, then share it to all these other platforms.
Oh, I'm like, okay, I'm learning now that I need to expand a little bit and do a little bit of reach. You also mentioned something, I think you called it Rush. I don't know if I'm saying that right. And that was something that can help people with their SEO.
Or to look at backlinks. So if you want to look at any website's backlinks,
Okay.
you could pay for these tools. The more popular ones would be like Ahrefs or SEMrush or Moz, or more popular ones. You have to pay for them, but they'll show you any website's backlinks. And then one by one, you can look at all your competitors, see which ones are getting good quality backlinks, and reach out to the sites and figure out what they do. Do they write an article? Do they do a podcast? Did they do an interview? Did they have a coupon code? Did they do a trade show event? Did they join the BBB? Did they join the Chamber of Commerce, or whatever it is? But you could reverse engineer and pretty much see their exact strategy using those tools.
So it is about getting clear and creating the content around those specific topics. Is it beneficial to create multiple, we're going to call them blog posts because we're creating a post for each episode, even if it's the same topic and the same keyword? Or do we want to change our keywords top or post to post to post?
Yeah, you always want to change the keywords, because if all the keywords are the same, then you're your own competitor and you're just competing against yourself now, and you're cannibalizing your results. So if you have one episode about or multiple episodes about SEO, maybe one is about SEO for beginners, another one could be SEO for podcasters, another one could be for SEO for fill in the blank. So if it's the same content, then probably not the best, because you're going to just compete with yourself. But if it's somewhat unique, then that's going to help differentiate it and let you target a different set of keywords of still the same topic, SEO, but now it's SEO for beginners, or it's SEO for podcasters, or it's SEO for whatever it may be. So it's a little bit different, because someone searching for SEO for podcasting doesn't probably want to know SEO for beginners, and vice versa. I mean, they might, but they want to know about how to optimize their podcast. They don't want to know about the basics. I mean, they probably still want to know the basics, but they want to know the basics tailored to podcasting.
So is that considered a long tail keyword then, if we're starting to add more words beyond that single SEO word?
Yeah, you never want to target one word, because one word keywords, there's no intent behind it. Someone searching for SEO or podcast, what does that mean? It could just mean so many different things that there's no intent. Someone searching for how do I start a podcast, they're looking to how to learn how to start a podcast. Not as many people are going to be looking for that versus the word podcast, but the people looking for how to start a podcast, they actually have intent. It's that buyer intent. So anything more than 2 words, it's called long tail keyword. And you always want to target long tail keywords. You never want to do broad or one word keywords, because it's just so generic and there's no intent behind it. And it can mean so many different things that you're just going to get a lot of clicks to your website, but most of those people are going to hit that back button. And that tells Google it's a negative signal and that you're probably not relevant to those searches. And that's going to drop you down in rankings.
Where can we find you and your company? You mentioned a few places in the beginning of the episode, but like, if somebody was like, okay, I'm ready to take my podcast to the next step, I need to work on SEO. Because I think that truly SEO is the one thing that every podcaster should work on at some point, because it's our way to be found without having to find our people. Where do you want to send people to find this next step? Like, what's the best way to get into your space?
Yeah, so I actually created a special gift. So anyone that's listening
Ooh.
or watching, if they go to my website at seooptimizers.com, that's SEOoptimizers.com/gift. They can find that there along with my contact information and a bunch of classes I've done over the years. I've thrown up there for free so they can watch those anytime. And also, if they want to book some time in my calendar, I'm happy to check out their website from an SEO point of view, and they could book some time for free there as well.
If you could add anything to the cure for pod phase, so something that's helping that person not give up and keep moving, what would you want them to, like, what ingredients would you want to add?
Just be patient. Everything takes time with digital, and just be patient. If you're not getting those results immediately, just remember, it takes time. Google's not going to just rank any website. So just keep building it up and building it up and building it up. And over the years, you're going to see that traffic increase. But don't get discouraged if you don't see that traction right away, just because it takes time for Google to trust you or any website in general.
Are there any final words that you would like to leave the listeners with?
I would say just keep working at it and just keep building it up and building it up, and don't get discouraged. It takes time, but it all works in the long run.